Hello and welcome to this week's Productivity Enhancer. Today we're going to take a look at a trick I picked up by reading the SolidWorks blog. It's actually full of great tips if you ever have a second and you're bored and want to take a look. But like I said, this particular trick had never come up in my modeling, so I wanted to see if I could replicate it. So what we have here is a part that was a sheet metal part that was created with a lofted bend. And if we go over to our flat pattern and expand it, you can see that when we unsuppress it, there are no bend lines here, none whatsoever. So let's just go ahead and hide all that. And let's also right click on the lofted bend and edit that feature and take a look at the property manager that comes up when we don't have those bend lines. So all we have is the message, profiles, thickness options. So let's go ahead and cancel that. If we take a closer look at it, you can see we have two sketches. Sketch 2 is right here, this arc, and sketch 3 is this line, arc, line sketch back here. And then the lofted bend connects the two open sketches. So you may ask, when would I ever have a part that has this criteria? Well, think about ducts. Sometimes you have a square vent going to a round vent in a duct. You can see this is a quarter of a square. And then if we spin around, this is a quarter of a circle. So this quarter panel in a duct system is basically just a loft right now. So how do we get SolidWorks to recognize bend lines? Because you do need bend lines in sheet metal design. How do we get those bend lines on a part like this? So SolidWorks has rules in order for it to create bend lines in the sheet metal part. And if you're working with sheet metal, you're going to have those bend lines in the design because it is coming from a flattened piece of sheet metal. Those rules are that the bend lines have to be parallel, and they also have to contain the same number of lines and curves. So we want our bend lines to show up somewhere on this part of the part, but you can see that we don't have anything that's parallel with these two sketches. And we even have a different number of lines and arcs. In this case, we have line, arc, line, and in this case, just one arc. So when this was created into sheet metal, SolidWorks didn't add any bend lines. So how do we get those bend lines on there? Well, we're going to have to modify one of these sketch entities. And the one that needs to be modified is the one with 3 sketch entities in it. So it's sketch number 3. So we're just going to go up and edit this sketch. And the tool that we use is the Fit Spline tool. And that's found right under here under Spline, Fit Spline right here. And what the Fit Spline does is it pulls up this property manager. And then when we go over to the sketch and choose all the sketch entities that we want included in the spline, it turns those 3 separate entities into one singular spline. So if we take a look, you can see we have our spline lines showing the curvature of the spline here. And you may ask, what is this pink line here connecting? And you see we get another set of yellow tolerance lines here. Well, that's because it's a closed spline. We want to unclick closed spline, and that way it'll just leave the 3 entities here as one spline. We're going to leave it constrained. And if you want to mess with the tolerance, you can always toggle this up as much as you'd like, and that'll change the tolerance of that arc. We'll just leave it kind of low. And you can mess with all of your preview options as well. However, I think those are really great previews, so you're probably just going to want to keep them there. Okay, so once we have all of those 3 segments selected into one spline, we click OK, and now we exit the sketch, and when we update that sketch, you can see our lofted bend now has a spot for bend line control. So when we created this loft bend, this box wasn't here at all. We didn't have the option because it was not a continuous spline. And even though they're still not parallel, SolidWorks builds in a cheat to get around that by allowing you to punch in the number of bend lines that you want or the maximum deviation as well. You can crank that up and then it will put those bend lines according to the maximum deviation. Let's just stick with the number of bends, and how about we choose 7. So now when we click OK, we can go over to our flat pattern and unsuppress it. And when we unsuppress it, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bend lines right on our part. So mission accomplished. It was that easy. So this is a neat little trick if you work with sheet metal just to have in your back pocket. It probably won't come up all that often, but now you know how just in case it does. So thanks for watching this week's Productivity Enhancer. Until next time.